Welcome, my name is Rick Naples and I'm a realtor. On today's show we're going to talk about the rule of threes when you're staging your home for sale, why realtors choose to be politically active, and what realtors won't actually tell you. This is The Real Estate Show. When you're putting your home on the market, there are some tricks that can be used to help show your home in its best light. Stagers for years have a number of techniques that they can do that help make the rooms in the home look their most appealing to the widest range of buyers that come out to look at your house. There's a number of different things that you can do, from the very simple to the very expensive. What I wanted to talk about was some of the simple things. One of the techniques that's used is called the rule of threes. Now, the concept of this is when there are groupings of three items together, the mind tends to want to balance that out. Your mind gets drawn to that display. And it works with any odd number displays. When it comes to furniture, think maybe a love seat and two end chairs. Or if you're displaying something on a fireplace, think of the way the tools are arranged. But anything in odd numbers. So that's what the rule of threes is. It could be 3 items, 5 items, 7 items, 9 items, whatever it might be, but always an odd number. This helps give the feeling of the room being more accepting to an individual when they come in and they see it for the first time. It's also a way of minimizing the things in a room so that the room looks larger. And speaking of larger, one of the techniques that's used with furniture is picking the largest piece of furniture and putting that piece at the furthest distance from the entrance to the room. Now, what I mean by this is, let's say you have a very tall piece of furniture. I've seen like grandfather clocks or large display cases or things along those sorts. If you place that piece of furniture in the far corner, or you place it on the wall that's the furthest away from the entrance to that room, it's going to help draw the eye across the room to that piece of furniture. This gives a sense of distance or a sense of size, a larger size, making a room feel more open and more welcoming. Speaking of furniture, take a look at your bedroom. What's usually the biggest piece of furniture in your bedroom? Not necessarily the bed. It's usually the dresser. What a lot of times a stager will do is the first thing they want to do when they're staging or preparing a bedroom for a showing is they want to take the largest piece of furniture out of the bedroom. This is your dresser. You may have to find another place to store your under things and so on and so forth. But the dresser takes up a lot of valuable space in a bedroom, especially smaller bedrooms. So the advice that a stager will give is they'll tell you to take the dresser out, put it out in the garage, or put it away in storage, or down in the basement if that's where you're storing things, so that the bedroom looks, again, more open. You want to give each room the feeling that there's plenty of room to move around and to enjoy the room, as opposed to the room being cluttered. One last mention. One of the things that stagers will say, the top thing on their list, is declutter. Take a look around your home. You have lots of collections, knickknacks, photos of friends, just things that have accumulated over the years. A stager will tell you that those things need to be packed away, put away, and minimized. The one thing that you're trying to accomplish when a buyer comes and takes a look at a home is to have the buyer imprint their style, their ownership on the home so that they would feel comfortable should they make an offer and get accepted in living in that property. Let's take a look at this. Realtors have the main job of marketing, selling, or helping buyers find homes. That's basically what their main purpose is, as well as guiding and helping people get through the whole real estate transaction. But realtors do so much more. There's a lot of things that are done behind the scenes, and I've talked on the real estate show before of what a realtor does when they're not actively out listing a property or showing a buyer a home. And that is being involved politically. Now, what I mean by that, folks, is that realtors are always aware of legislation that comes up from time to time that affects the housing market. It affects a person's right to own a home. Legislators are always looking at ways to improve things, and sometimes those improvements have a negative effect. So realtors, through the National Association of Realtors, have a number of different ways to be politically involved. They can do it three different ways. One way is all realtors usually belong to a alert list. They call it a call to action. When the National Association of Realtors or the State Association of Realtors gets word or gets the sense that something's going on legislatively that's going to affect the housing market, they'll send out an alert to all of the licensed realtors as to what it is, what the opinion is about it, and how to express that opinion to their local legislator, whether it be their representative or to their senator. These call to actions go out again in mass, and the realtor will respond sending an email directly to that legislator expressing the opinion on that particular law or bill that might be proposed. The other way they get involved is realtors have what's called a political action committee. Now this is basically folks that their job is to watch the legislative activities and to become proactive, either through testifying at Congress or appearing at committee meetings, to express the realtor's opinion on the housing market and how that legislation might affect a homeowner in the process of owning their home. The third way that we've seen some realtors get involved is they get so involved in the political process they actually run for office. I'm sure a lot of you out there in the real estate show audience know a realtor that's gotten politically involved in the past and become a senator or become a representative, or maybe they sit on the town council, or they're involved in a condo association, or like myself, they get very involved in their local realtors association to help give back to the community and to be aware of the things that affect the real estate market, especially when it comes to legislatively. In the previous segment, I had made a mention about fair housing laws, and that comes into play almost every day when a realtor is practicing their craft as a licensed realtor. Realtors will do their best for buyers to answer any questions the buyer may have about a home that they're looking to purchase. A lot of general questions. They can talk about the amenities of the home, the construction of the home, the features of the home, and so on and so forth. But there are a few things that realtors won't answer, or if they do answer it, they don't answer it, well, they answer it kind of indirectly. It's a non-committal type answer. And some of those questions are very popular questions. For instance, a buyer may ask their realtor, hey, what's the neighborhood like? Or a more popular question is, what are the schools like in the area? Well, because of fair housing and discrimination laws, realtors can't actually express an opinion or answer that question, no matter how many facts or figures they have. It has to be left up to the buyer to do their due diligence and research on those particular items. And when a realtor doesn't answer those questions or advises their buyer to do the research, or maybe gives them a website they could go to, they're demonstrating their professionalism in being aware of the fair housing laws and anything that might be considered discriminatory when they're sharing or showing a home. There are a couple of other questions that realtors will not answer directly. On my list here, the two more popular ones are, is this area safe? Or is this a good place to raise a family? Now, both of those questions, again, are very difficult for a realtor to answer without being in conflict with fair housing ruling and law. Again, the buyer has to research that information for themselves and find out for themselves and make a decision for themselves as to whether or not the answers they find help them make a decision as to whether or not they want to purchase that property and live in that area. To share with you today is about lock boxes. A lock box is something that realtors will use in order to put a key to the home so that when a realtor schedules a showing, they have access to be able to get into the home. And we've all seen the lock boxes. They hang off the front doorknob or the side doorknob or whatever the main entrance might be that the seller wants the buyer to come in. And it will have a key in it to enter the front door, or it may have keys in it for entering other areas of the home, whether it be a garage or a locked shed or wherever it might be. Now, realtors have techniques in using these lock boxes, and they have a communication source that they use in order to get the codes from the listing agency so they know how to do the code to get into the box. And there's all kinds of boxes that are out there. There's very simple ones, which are dial lock boxes. These just have a code combination that you dial in order to open them up. There are lock boxes out there like this one that have secret doors that hide the dials for the numbers that you need to dial in order to access the key. There are even lock boxes that have push buttons on them that you have a code that you push button to do that. And then there's a more upscale technology type lockbox, which is called an electronic lockbox. And these boxes can only be opened by a licensed realtor or someone licensed in the real estate industry that has a very special key that allows them to put a code in to communicate with that box to access the key. The story that I'm telling about lockboxes today is something that happened to me and happens to a lot of realtors. One of the many challenges you have when you go out and you show a house is getting into it. So of course you have to make sure that you have all the proper information on the home and you have the proper codes in order to undo the lockbox and get the key to enter the home. And sometimes those lockboxes are placed on doors that are a little hard to maneuver to. What I mean by that is it may be a door where the framing of the door is kind of tight, so there isn't a lot of room to move the lockbox in order to access the key easily. Sometimes there's miscommunication where the code you get isn't the code for that lockbox. Sometimes realtors, if they have a number of listings, they forget what box they put on what home and they'll give a wrong code That's why a lot of us realtors carry our cell phones with the numbers programmed right into them, so we can call the listing agent if there's an issue. But there's also the possibility of when you're reaching to take the key out of the box that you don't grab it. And what I mean by that is something that actually happened to me. I was undoing the lockbox one day. It was raining. I was kind of hurried. I wanted to get into the house because my buyers were standing out. We were all getting wet. I opened the door, or I opened the latch for the lockbox, and because of the position of the lockbox and the key not being attached inside, the key fell out to the ground. Well, in this particular case, it was one of those houses that had one of those prefab stairways. You know what I'm talking about, those pre-molded concrete stairwells or staircases that goes up against the house. And this particular one over the years had settled back just a little bit. So there was about a 1-inch gap between the platform of the staircase and the actual house door and the stoop. Well, you know what's coming, folks. The key fell out of the lockbox and it found its way into that 1 little inch gap and went down below the stairs. So what do you do in a case like that? Well, folks, I had to get a little dirty. I ended up crawling to the side of the stairs, getting down on all fours, reaching my hand behind the staircase to find the key, pull the key up, and then subsequently unlock the door. This is the portion of the real estate show I call the real estate mailbag. It's an opportunity for emails to be answered, questions to be answered that are asked to me by a realtor, whether they're asked to me when I'm out and about or asked to me by fellow realtors. One of the emails that came in concerns rental properties. This particular individual was asking me or telling me that they have a dog and they're looking for a rental. And they're having a real hard time finding a rental because most of the landlords are saying they won't accept pets and they won't make an exception for the pet. And this has got them quite upset. Well, there's a reasoning behind that. When you own property, you have to insure that property. And one of the aspects of your home insurance policy is the liability part. A lot of insurance companies have lists of when they're going to insure a property of risks, and that's how they price their policy or justify the cost that might be involved for whatever that risk or liability might be in insuring that property. Now, when it comes to dogs, there's a list of certain dogs that unfortunately, because of very few, have gained a reputation of being a high-risk animal. Now, your dog may not be anything like the other dogs within its breed, and landlords understand that, and they're sensitive to that. Unfortunately, the insurance companies don't look at it that way. They look at the possibilities of having to pay a claim. So, if you have a particular breed and it's on this risk list, the landlord's not going to accept the dog. And to be fair, again, fair housing, discrimination, whatever it might be, they may have a policy where no pets are allowed. They're not going to make any exception. It excludes all pets, not just specifically animals that might be on this risk list. This has been the Real Estate Show. My name is Rick Naples. I thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.